Hello and welcome OpenStack practitioners. In this demonstration I'm going to walk you through the key benefits of OnCommand Insight with OpenStack. OnCommand Insight is an open platform for your hybrid cloud data center management. Now we see OnCommand Insight's value in three key areas, first being business insights, intelligent operations, as well as ecosystem integrations. OnCommand Insight provides consistent insights across your multi-vendor, multi-platform infrastructure for support from Microsoft and Cisco, EMC and Dell, as well as NetApp and OpenStack. OnCommand Insight is solving your infrastructure challenges by being able to correlate and analyze the logical and physical constructs of your infrastructure, identifying anomalies and helping you be more proactive, as well as tracking capacity for capacity planning activities. OnCommand Insight is an open platform and allows integration with other business services such as help desk ticketing systems, custom CMDBs, billing and financing programs, as well as automation. Once we log into OnCommand Insight, we land at the asset landing page. The landing page provides us capacity breakdowns by vendor. The widgets displayed are interactive, providing you capacity breakdowns as well as utilizations for vendor, for capacity tiers, as well as switch port information. We have high-level facts about our environment for breakdowns for capacity, efficiency technologies such as thin provisioning and dedupe. We have fiber channel resources and for our consumption, as well as information about our virtualized infrastructure. Here in the center of the screen, we have a breakdown of our top 10 utilized storage pools, which gives us information into the capacities being delivered to our objects. The other widgets displayed on this screen are breakdowns or heat maps that show us the larger the font is the larger or the greater the amount of I/O being generated. Here we can see as of our virtual machines we have a number of OpenStack instances here that are generating I/O. Now let's dive into some of the dashboards specific for OnCommand Insight. So within OnCommand Insight, there's no limit to the number of dashboards that you can create. In this particular instance, you see we have over 40 dashboards, and you can see the various users that are creating these dashboards. On the drop-down dashboard listing, you'll see the listing of the most current dashboards created. Here I've created an OpenStack dashboard to explore some of the details of our OpenStack environment. So in the first listing here, we have a table widget, and this is simply breaking down our OpenStack VM instances. Here you can see we have 17 items found. All of these widgets are configurable, so they're very flexible and dynamic. You can drag these over and create your own widgets. Well, we have over 21 different widgets displayed here. And here you can see I'm looking at VM instances in this particular widget. The details of the widget, I'm able to display various metrics across this table. So here we're looking at virtual machines. We're looking at memory utilization up to 100%. So we're looking at the entire listing of virtual machines. We're only looking at virtual machines that are part of this hypervisor. So we're looking at this OpenStack hypervisor environment here. And what you're seeing for information on the metrics on the screen are only a subset of the information that we're able to provide you. So you can see here only the checkboxed items are currently being displayed. So a lot of metrics to choose from. So here on this widget display, they are customizable as well. So here I can select the ascending, descending options. So if I want to look at my top 10 or top 5, or so if I want to rank these by their CPU utilization or memory utilization, or maybe even by their latencies, I can also come in here and type in specific names. So if I want to look for an OpenStack instance that has the word auto in it, I can select that, and you'll see that these widgets are dynamic, so they'll update for me and only present the data that I'm interested in. So I'm going to remove that filter here and go back to the complete listing. So here are some of the possibilities with these widgets. So we have box and whisker widgets, and I'll just break this open so you can see the numbers of different widgets we have here. We have area charts, bar charts, box plots. We have line charts and spline charts, as well as scatter plots and the table widget, which I just displayed. There are also a number of other widgets below here that you can select from. So going down to the bottom here, we're looking at hypervisor CPU utilization by top 5. And the way these box plots work is I can hover over the actual box and whiskers here, and it's going to give me my 25th percentile, my 75th percentiles, my median, my max, and my mins for my CPU utilization, all in one display. So here we can see that the percentage of the time we're actually sitting, our median is at the top of this acceptable range here. We can see our spikes up here at the top, so we're hitting about 70% CPU utilization for this cloud node number 16. and just an easy way to represent the data here. Now, the next screen we're looking at is memory utilizations. We're looking at the top 20 hypervisors here in our environment, and we're looking at their memory utilization breakdowns. The next screen over, the next widget over, we're looking at VMIO profiles. So we're looking at the total IOPS for these particular hypervisors or VMs. Below this, we're looking at I/O density. So we have a scatter plot design here. When we hover over these objects, you can see the virtual machines here. And we're essentially looking at the amount of use capacity and their total IOPS to get an idea of how potent that capacity is for delivering the performance. Next, here on the right hand side, we're looking at VM IOPS versus latency, and we have an overlay of an area stack chart as well as a line chart, so we can see the IOPS demand in the back with these stacked graphs here and see if we can pick out any correlations for latency. Next, we have some reclamation possibilities for this environment. So understanding that the VM guest OS are not running and they've been allocated with more than 500 gigabytes of capacity. So here we have a breakdown of those top 20 VMs here, as well as the processor counts that have been allocated for them. To the right, we have our VM guests that are not running for their memory allocation. So we can see the amount of gigabytes that have been allocated to these VM instances and that their guest states are currently not operating. So here again, some opportunities to reclaim some of the memory for your environment. We understand in an OpenStack environment, you still run into the traditional planning and bottlenecks that you can have with resource contention. So here are yet just a couple of ways to be able to look at this or visualize these types of opportunities to reclaim. So here we have memory optimized VMs. So these are all my VMs or instances in my OpenStack environment that have greater than 32 gigabyte of RAM but are under 25% utilized. So we're looking at the peak utilization here, and we have a breakdown of our top 10. And the same goes for our CPU utilization VM. So we're looking at CPU processor counts that have more than 4 virtual CPUs allocated to those instances and are using traditionally less than 25% utilization. And then what we've done here is we've just provided an area stack chart over a period of time, and we can adjust these times here by simply selecting the last 24 hours, 3 days, 7 days, 30 days, and we can even go back as far as 90 days of real-time data in this operational client. We're looking at a stacked graph of our top 10 VMs and their CPU utilization over time. So we can see any ebbs and flows in our actual CPU activity versus looking at just a simple point-in-time metric. Now let's go take a look at a virtual machine and see how we can analyze and understand how OCI correlates all of this together. So I'm going to come up to the table chart here. I'm just going to pick on this one here where the latency is 19.58 milliseconds. And we're going to jump into the landing page for this actual instance in OpenStack running. So here we have on our landing page the summary details for the virtual machine instance. So we can see the power state, the guest state is currently running, the data store that it resides for, so it's rolling up those VMDKs. We have the CPU utilization information, so we can see we have rather high CPU utilization. Memory utilization is 99% here as well. We're not currently triggering any policy events here. These red dots are indicating a policy has been violated in OnCommand Insight. So you can see here, here's the policy for this virtual machine, and what we're looking at for this policy is CPU utilization that's greater than 75%, as well as memory utilization that's greater than 80%. Now OnCommand Insight has a way of minimizing all of this noise, so we can do what we call conditional policies here. So this is sending an alert if all of these statements are true. We can also say if any of these statements are true. So we can select just any, and when CPU and or memory is triggered, it will send an alert, and we can tell it to stop processing further alerts. So once we receive one alert, we know we need to take a look at it, and we can go back in there and take a peek. So let's move on. Let's go down here. We have information about our latency. We saw this latency earlier on the previous widget. We have our IOPS, so we have our average IOPS here as well as our max IOPS. And you can see here we have a max latency of 95.91 milliseconds. We also have some information about the IP addresses here. We have our end-to-end topology here. So here's our OpenStack instance and the compute node or the host or hypervisor that it's associated with. OnCommand Insight's also going to tie this back to storage for you, so it's an end-to-end solution. We can see from the VM or guest layer as well as the physical server, through this fabric, through the switches, all the way down to the storage. So what do we have here? We're looking at the last 24 hours here. You can see that this has come on just recently online, and we had that spike of latency here at the beginning, and then we had a smaller jump in I/O here, but no observed latencies here. On the right-hand side, we have our correlation analytics. So this is looking at everything that's logically and physically connected to this instance, so to this virtual machine, and it's correlating it or ranking it on the side based on its level of contribution. So it's looking at hypervisor CPU, it's looking at latency, IOPS, utilization. There's a number of different metrics here. And when it finds a match, it's going to rank it on the right-hand side and put it in its level of contribution. And so what we're seeing here is that the latency of this virtual machine instance is 69% correlated to the CPU utilization of this hypervisor. So let's click on this here. We're going to bring this in here. And now we're going to bring in some different metrics here. So here we can see on the bottom screen here that we can see our compute node, and our compute node is jumping up right here, or our cloud node is jumping up right here. So we can see that we now are at 100% on this particular hypervisor. So let's go look at the hypervisor, see if we can understand what's going on here. So here we are on the hypervisor details. We have the IP, the CPU information, memory as well, CPU counts, the operating system. Again, this is OpenStack KVM. Here's the cluster names. We want to take a look at our end-to-end topology. So here you can see the node. We have NFS attached as well as iSCSI down to this particular storage device, which happens to be a NetApp FAS. So let's take a look here and understand what else is going on here. So when we come down here, we can see that we have CPU utilization for this compute node here. Now on the compute node, we now have new correlations here. So now we have two virtual machines that seem to be driving most of the CPU utilization. Okay, so when I bring this in here, we see that the hypervisor is 69% correlated to the latency of this particular VM. And over here on the right-hand side, we see the CPU is 46% correlated to the IOP demand of this particular VM here. And we can see this observed here in these particular graphs. Now below here, we also get details about our virtual machines that are using this hypervisor. So we have a complete listing of all the virtual machines. We can bring in a graph here and overlay all of these virtual machines here. Let's change these over to like an area chart. So we can take a look at the virtual machines that are currently used in this environment. We can scroll in, take a deeper dive or a deeper look in here to get that information. We can also look at the OS mounted resources. So these are our NFS mounts here that the storage is being accessed here. So you can see here we have what we call in NetApp terms a flex vol, and we also have our boot LUN. And then down below you can see we have some violations about our environment. So we have some missing virtual cluster paths, and we have a violation for CPU utilization for this particular VM. Now we could create a number of different dashboards to represent these views. Again, we have all different types. With OpenStack, we tend to concentrate more on our automation capabilities. So OnCommand Insight is a flexible solution, so it's a wide open platform. We have an extensible MySQL database as well as a fully published REST API. So here we can see our REST API in detail. So we have all of our REST API documented here in a Swagger format, which is always up to date. And here you can see we can scroll down through all the different asset types and different APIs that we can call on here. And I'll just open up one example here. So we'll open up host. And here you can see we have our response classes for our API. We have some test parameters that we can check. We have all the error code statuses. We also have a built-in test tool where you can try out your code and just select there, and you'll get the response messages in the body down below here. We also provide a URL for those assets here, so you can actually program into your other business solutions. using OnCommand Insight's REST API, and you can see here all the details for our environment. So it's very, very good for our testing before you apply in your environments here. We support all the popular methods, whether it be get, put, delete, and so forth. Now, OnCommand Insight also has a reporting data warehouse. Here in our data warehouse, there you can run reports and do your long-term historical trending and forecasting capabilities. You can use chargeback and showback style reports. Now, OnCommand Insight has a number of reports built into our solution. When you come over here, you'll see that we have regular reports, we have vendor-specific reports, but where the power of OnCommand Insight comes in is our built-in business intelligence solution. So we have a number of drag-and-drop report authoring capabilities where you can simply create your own reports based on whether it be switch performance, virtual machine performance, storage and storage pool capacity facts, and even chargeback information. And this is just an example of just how easy it is to begin creating your own reports. Now here we are on the automation storefront.netapp.com, and you can see here that we have an OnCommand Insight page with a number of different reports available for you. And if we can scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that there's a number of displays. Now all of these are free for you to download. You can alter these. There's no limit to what you can do with these reports. I'm just going to bring up an example of a single report here. We have a preview pane so you can see what these reports look like before you actually download them and apply them in your environments. It's very simple to do. To get these reports into OnCommand Insight, you're simply copying them to your clipboards and importing the report and saving it as whatever name you'd want to save it in your data warehouse. So very simple process to get these reports in there. And you can see we have, again, a number of different reports. We have queries, widgets, various APIs, and other uploads for you to consume. Now let's go take a look at OnCommand Insight's interactive demo. So navigate to the netapp.com products page and look for the infrastructure management section. You'll see OnCommand Insight for data center infrastructure analytics. Down on the page, you'll see a link here where you can access an interactive demo so you can try out OnCommand Insight, walk through various navigations and use cases and workflows, and understand how it can help you to gain valuable business insights into your infrastructure. This concludes our demonstration today. Be sure to reach out to your local NetApp account representative if you want to learn more details about OnCommand Insight.